This episode of The Get Down is brought to you by Digital Music Pool. Digital Music Pool is the ultimate record pool for professional DJs looking for the hottest tracks and exclusive hits updated daily in an easy-to-use platform. You can find exclusive edits from myself, Kareem, Adam B., Andrew Marks, Angela the Kid, Chumpian, Castra, and Pat C., only on DMP, and we're giving you a chance to try their service for just $9.99 for the first month and $24.99 each additional month. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes or on the Get Down or Cream Instagram pages, create an account, and enter the promo code CREAM at checkout for your discounted month. DMP is my go-to site when downloading new music, so become a member for just $9.99 for the first month with the code CREAM. You will not be disappointed. Click the link in the show notes or on the Get Down or Cream Instagram pages to sign up now. What's up, guys? Thanks for listening to the Get Down podcast. If you enjoy what you hear and you think other DJs could benefit from the things that we talk about on the show, we would greatly, greatly appreciate if you could subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you listen to it. It's much appreciated. Thanks, guys. What's up, guys? Welcome to the 111th episode of The Get Down, brought to you by Digital Music Pool. My name is Kareem.
Gary W. here.
We got a brand new intro that we actually started last episode 110, but we didn't shout out our boy, Sean Magda, who produced it for us, because we're shot.
Incredible job. It was exactly what we were looking for. And yeah, we're gonna I didn't throw it on last week's YouTube, so I'm gonna add it for this week's YouTube.
Yeah, big shout to Sean Magda. Sean's been doing a lot of production for his own brand behind the scenes, and has a bunch of records signed and has a lot of new music coming out. So every time he sends me a Dropbox folder, there's like 12 tracks in there.
Guy's going to work. Guy's going to work for real. But
so this weekend. I had a travel gig Friday, and then Saturday I was expecting to come back to Hoboken and play Leprechaun, which is the big St. Patty's Day bar crawl. But towards the end of the week, the mayor kind of shut down this huge party that normally is pretty good. I know the last couple of years, maybe not so much, but
we've done. You know what's kind of weird? I think there was one decent one in the mix of there being a bunch of not so great ones. And then we also get this false sense of reality when SantaCon comes around, and that's ridiculous, blown out of the water, crazy, right? So the expectation level changes post SantaCon. And
yeah, for sure.
Then this year on what was that, Tuesday night or Wednesday, the mayor calls a meeting with some of the people that are running the bar crawl and essentially poo-poos on the whole situation.
Yeah, essentially threaten the bar owners with ABC fines and shutting their businesses down and all this stuff. And it's really, from someone who works in this industry for a long time, for the bartenders and the servers and the DJs and the managers, it's usually a big day financially for us, DJs, we get to double, sometimes triple up. Sometimes we get to charge a higher price. The bartenders are going to have a huge day. And the mayor's basically saying, and the venues as well. The mayor's basically saying, F your businesses, F your industry, because it doesn't fit into this, high-end family thing. He shuts it down, and it hurts everyone in our world. And it's honestly, it hurts. It hurts.
It hurts big time from the prospect of there should be a day where the businesses make enough money where they can kind of cushions the rest of their month really nicely. And I get it. You know what? It is a little wild out there. When you're just walking around in public and there's drunk people walking around, and it's not always the greatest look. It might be a little sloppy, but I think then you just kind of like beef up your police presence then. Don't shit on your local businesses.
Hey, you know what? Families, maybe don't go downtown Hoboken for that afternoon. Just stay uptown. Like, it's not like this is taking over the whole city. It's taking over one little couple block radius of the city, and that's it. And you know what? If you don't want to see it and you have kids and you don't want to be around it, don't go down there,
Right. No, I agree. Like, he should not be shitting on local business. Really? And what is he pandering to the Paneras and whatever's down there, Shake Shack and Nike now he's putting in, and like, it's getting so corporate on Washington. Like, what are you worried about? What are you really worried about?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's all mom and pop. I mean, there's some down there, but it's not a ton of it anymore. It's getting so commercial. And now you're going to shit on your local businesses? Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. And and handle it in a way, from what we heard, which was extremely unprofessional and not showing leadership at all. At all. Now, I can only go by what we heard. But you know what? If we're being told that the situation was not handled in a way that they felt should have been handled a little differently, I don't feel like somebody's just spreading that rumor. I don't know. But it's so reminiscent, and I get really passionate about this because it's so reminiscent of New York City nightlife under the Giuliani era, because it's ridiculous, because he got ridiculous with that. I understand why he did it. Listen, New York City in the early 90s, anywhere from the 70s to the early 90s was not very good, right? 42nd Street, you could not walk up and down without being harassed by, whether it be a prostitute, or if you were driving somebody that was, washing your windows, or you just wouldn't walk up and down that area. And then it became Disneyfied, obviously, later on in the 90s. And then Giuliani kind of took it a step further and started to pull back on nightlife and really cracking down on what was going on in the nightlife scene. So which it was an absolutely archaic law that they had, the cabaret laws. He started to institute the fucking cabaret laws, which was if you didn't, you had to pay the city to have dancing in your space. So if you were a cafe, right? So for example, there was a cafe down on Avenue A in New York City that would turn into a gay nightclub at night. Nightclub. It's a cafe during the day. Well, because they had no cabaret license and they found out there was a DJ and dancing, well, they threw thousands of dollars of fines at this place, and then forcing the place to shut down. And this didn't just happen at those little spots. It then again trickled throughout, and then it happened at the Sound Factory, and then it happened at Crowbar later on, and then it happened at all of these places. I mean, it started with Limelight and Tunnel and Sound Factory and Avalon, and then it wound up kind of spiraling out of effect, and then it affected the entire nightlife scene forever. It's only now coming back 20 years later, and I'm afraid that I don't want to say that we're going to see the same thing in Hoboken, but I feel like we're back to this point where there's an overreach in the power being used that's going to affect small business and nightlife moving forward, and it affects a lot of people's money.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you guys who are listening, I'm sure there are areas where you're living and working where you're affected by things like this, where a city or a town or a mayor is anti-nightlife, and it's disheartening and it sucks. But for us, the neighboring city, Jersey City, the mayor has done the complete opposite and is completely embracing the small businesses of Jersey City, the restaurants, the nightlife, to a point where he's shut down an entire street and has now extended it a number of blocks that's just for pedestrians, and the whole street is just lined with restaurants, bars, ice cream, dessert, all kinds of stuff for people to just go down, walk up and down the block. There's always musicians playing out in the street. They've really cultivated this pro-business and community vibe, which is the complete opposite of what's happening in Hoboken. I think what really is going to happen, and we're seeing it already, where DJs would rather go play in Jersey City. People who were going out would rather just go play in Jersey City because it is so much more accepting,
He is so accepting to the point that when they did the commemoration of the block, right? They had they had a speech, they set it up. It was all, the paper, the various news outlets were there, and who spoke? The mayor spoke first, and then he calls up Kenny, who owns multiple businesses on that block, who owns a restaurant and 2 nightlife spaces and going to be a 3rd nightlife space. And those were the only 2 people that spoke, was him and a restaurant / bar / club owner.
Yeah.
And that's how much he appreciates what the restaurants and the nightclubs and the bars are doing for that part of town and doing for that town as a whole.
It's just different perspectives, right? And this is taking like political sides out of it. This is just kind of what's happening and how it's affecting us in the nightlife world. And it just is what it is, you know? The Hoboken mayor, I believe his term is done 2024. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen if he moves on? You know, a lot of times these guys will come through the cities of Jersey City and Hoboken with the hopes of moving on to bigger and better. So hopefully he's gone, and hopefully there's someone else that gets elected that's more pro-business and hopefully can keep Hoboken from going down that Giuliani, New York City nightlife road. And guys, like for you guys that are listening, I mean, go all in on those areas where you can tell that they're investing in the businesses and in nightlife and in bars and restaurants, because that's where you're going to ultimately want to work. You know, the police they're going to be more open to working with customers and people who are working and more open to doing cool things. You know, maybe we're going to shut down the street and put a stage and do a big outdoor show like that. Will never happen in Hoboken ever.
Never. They tried to do a big show there with I think it was Mumford and Sons, and I think it was Dylan and one other bigger act at the time, and the music was I went to it. The music was so low because they didn't want it to affect obviously the residents that were at the end of that pier, and the music was so low. The beer distribution was absolutely pathetic because of all of the little restrictions that had to be put on for it. Even though it was, you know, touted as a family-related thing, it wasn't as effective or it wasn't as good as it could have been.
It wasn't like they had Playboy Cardi out there. It was freaking Mumford and Sons.
It was Mumford and Sons, yeah, and Dylan, who could barely sing at this point. So it's like, you know, it was just a really interesting, you know, my takeaway from that was exactly what, you know, it hasn't really changed since then. It's like, you know what, they try to do something cool and they try to, you know, pander to the people that live there, but they're not doing it to its fullest extent, you know? Don't even do it then. Don't do it.
What's the point? Either go all in or don't do it. We say this about the venues and nightlife, right? Either go all in and try and do something the right way, or why even try? What's the point? You know, spend a little money, go all out, put some lighting in, fix your sound. Like, if you want to do nightlife, then go all in. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But don't do this half-assed,
I think it was
middle of the road thing.
I think it was a slap in the face that he waited until 3 days before the event to threaten the local businesses, and I think that's wrong. I think he knew it was. We all know what week that happens for the last 30 years. Don't tell me you didn't know. And 3 days before, you say if you do this, we're going to shut you down, like in an extremely aggressive way. Not cool, man. Just, you know, not cool at all. I don't know.
Let's transition from, you know, city politics to nightlife politics, because something we've been kind of discussing with a bunch of our DJs lately has been venues in one market saying that you, the DJ, can't play another venue in the same market. I think you and I sort of started Get Down as a way to get rid of this, right? This was something that you and I had dealt with a lot as we were coming up. There was a lot more clubs for sure in our area, so I think, I don't know. It's more of an old school way of thinking. Some of the people that still do this now are either older owners or older promoters who've kind of been in the game for a long time, and this is just the way they've always done it. But I think there's a number of ways that you, the DJ, can handle this situation.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It is an old school way of thinking, right? And I think, but we can't get all caught up on that. We have to we have to think about the ways that we could take advantage and make this and put the ball back in our court. And I think the number one way is, well, you can either, if you're going to say that I can't go play at these other venues, then you either have to give me a residency or book me X amount of times a month, and this is my number, because now you're stunting my financial growth, because you're not letting me go play at these other venues in the area where I could be maybe booked out in Morristown, New Jersey on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, And now I can only play one place. So guess what? I'm only going to be playing there once a week. So now you've ripped away 2 potential nights of me working. I get it. Like, do they want you to bring, if they think that you're bringing a ton of people into the venue, I understand it from that standpoint. I'm going to see DJ Kareem on Friday night or Saturday night, and if he goes and plays at a competitor venue the next day, well, I'm probably not going to go see him there. I understand it from that perspective. But realistically, how many local DJs are bringing out more than 10 people anyway?
Yeah, not a lot.
Not a lot.
Sometimes, sure, but consistently, definitely not.
You know, I just don't think that it has the effect that these bar owners and managers really think it has. The funny part of this is that they say that you can't go play somewhere else and put all this onus on the music and put all this onus on the DJ and how important the DJ is from this perspective. And then on the other hand, they're like, well, we don't want to give you a $50 raise. It's like, well, I don't understand. Like, are we important or are we not important?
Right.
You know? And that's kind of, that's where it gets really annoying. It's like, give me an every week, give me the dollar amount that I want, and don't fuck with me over $50.
I would argue the other side of it, you know, you gave kind of the venue owner perspective. I think how I look at it more so is if a DJ is getting more popular and getting booked all over the place, you're opening up that DJ to new fans, new followers, more people. They're going to want to come out and support that person no matter what day of the week it is. And I think if you look at it that way, that, hey, I'm letting this person go and spread their wings so that when they come back to my place, they're going to bring more people or new people or people who wouldn't normally come to my place because they like this DJ. And that's always how I've looked at it. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule, right? When you're a nightclub and there's a nightclub across the street or around the corner, or I understand that part of it. You know, if you're getting booked for a decently high dollar amount and you're a headliner and they're bringing you in, they want you there. I get it. I understand. You know, this is direct competition. It's a little different when you're talking direct competition. From a DJ business perspective, like, yeah, of course I want to go play both places, but sometimes you have to make this choice. And like you said, this is a great way to improve your situation, either in the place that you're currently playing that wants to keep you there, or at a new place that also wants to book you. It's a great opportunity to negotiate, like you said, that extra couple bucks. And you just really have to have a conversation with the decision maker and be open and honest about it and say, hey, if this is a place that you really want to stay at, you go to the owner or the booker and say, hey, you know, I really want to stay here. I really love playing here. I love the staff. I think we're creating something great, but I have this opportunity across the street or wherever, you know. They're offering me more money. They're offering me more gigs. Would it be possible if we could guarantee me 2 nights a month, 3 nights a month, every Friday, whatever it is that you might want at this dollar amount? And I think that's a reasonable request. And if they really want to keep you there like they say they do, and they don't want you going to play somewhere else, it would be in their best interests to try to appease you and make you happy with what you're asking them.
If you have the opportunity to go have a conversation with the competitor venue and you can set up a meeting and give those same guidelines and see who gives you the best offer, I think at the end of the day is the best way to go about it.
Right. You're doing yourself a disservice not having both conversations. You definitely
have to do
both
that.
Conversations, because then you could negotiate against each one of them.
Yeah, don't think, I know it comes off like, okay, if the one venue finds out I spoke to the other venue, they're going to be mad about it, but you need to look out for yourself first and foremost. That's the most important thing. Your bottom dollar and your career is more important than, you know, if Joe from, you know, this bar next door is going to get mad at me because I went and talked to his competitor bar, you know?
Right. At the end of the day, these venues care about themselves. They don't care about us as the DJ. It's very, very rare for a venue owner or a booker to completely become invested in you, the DJ. There are rare occasions for sure. Most of the time, all they care about is their bar. And if you don't want to do what they are asking you to do, they'll just go find somebody else. Honestly, like most DJs, venues look at us as replaceable. You know, whether that's correct or incorrect, that's a completely different conversation. But that's how they look at it. So we have to do what's best for us. We always have to be looking out for ourselves because the venues are not going to look out for you. They're never going to willingly give you that raise. They're never going to willingly give you that second or third night. Most of the time, they're not going to willingly give you the residency unless you earn it and you ask for it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely have the conversation with both places. If you really, really want to stay at the place, the one place where you're currently at, if they meet your need, or they meet your asking, then maybe you don't need to go have the other conversation. But I think it's worth it and say, like, this is what I'm really looking for. And this is a great opportunity to go from a $350 DJ to a $450 DJ.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't go running to the competitor place. If you're at a residency, you want to get their answer first. I mean, if they're hesitating and they're taking a couple, days or weeks to answer you, because this does happen where like a manager, you're trying to book a meeting with a manager or an owner and it just doesn't come to fruition, or you're texting them and they don't text you back, or you're calling them and they don't call you back. Then all right, I've done my due diligence here. I'm going to go talk to this other place now.
Right.
It's happened to us time and time again. Don't think that our phone's ringing off the hook when we're trying to set a meeting with any of these people. And a lot of the places we're booking all their DJs.
Right.
So it happens where you do get avoided by management and ownership. It happens all the time. So you have to stay persistent for a little bit and then do the smart thing. And then if you need to go talk to the other people, you got to go talk to the other
Sometimes you just have to catch them at the right time. Like people hit us up too, and where it might be 24 hours before we get back to you, but it's because you and I are recording a podcast, or we're in the middle of doing the bookings, or we're in the middle of something else that requires us to have 100% attention. And whatever you're asking as the DJ is something completely off of that subject, and it doesn't make sense to pause and go deal with that when you're in the middle of something else that's really important. So,
right. Be persistent.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up. So, something that's come up in conversation with our DJs as well is like, let's say there's one or two venues that everyone wants to work at, right? And this is in one of those cities where if you work at one venue, you can't really work at any other venues. So, if you have an opportunity to work at one of the lesser venues, do you take that opportunity, or do you hold out for the better venue? I have a strong opinion on this, but I wanted to ask you first.
I think that, my question would be, has the other venue approached me yet, or do I just have aspirations to play that
just have venue? Aspirations. There's no contact yet.
I think you go play the smaller venue all day long. You do a great job there. Trust me, depending on the size of the town. Well, actually, that doesn't even matter. These nightlife circles are very small. If you do a great job at a venue, everybody in town will know. Everybody in town will know. But you know what? When you have that opportunity to do that smaller venue, you better knock it out of the park. You better make it a memorable experience. You better do like a recap video. You better make sure that everybody knows that I really rocked this venue, and guess who's going to be knocking on your door next time. That's how I look at it.
Well, what if you just do it quietly and go play the room, hoping that the other venue doesn't see that you're playing there? I mean, is that another viewpoint?
It's another avenue that you could take, sure. But because the way I look at it is that if I'm not playing the premier venue in town, that I'm probably not established enough to kind of pick and choose where I want to play. I need to build my name first.
That's actually a really great point.
It's different where if you're an established DJ with a name, you're never going to go play that smaller venue, because then you're just going to be extricated from the bigger venue.
Yeah.
But if you're an up-and-coming DJ where that bigger venue has not come to you yet, you have to do a damn good job in all of the smaller places and work your way to the big place.
I think that's a great point. I think breaking into the market and being in that city is the most important thing. And you could always make a move from one venue to the other. Just because you're playing in a place, like Gary said, if you're doing a good enough job and you're making enough noise, the bigger place will probably come calling, and they're not going to give a shit if you're playing another competitive venue. If you agree to go play their venue and get rid of the smaller venue kind of thing.
They all have, what's a nice way to put this? the bigger places look down upon the small, like the lesser popular places in town. They all think they're the shit. Fuck that. I don't care about that venue. And I'll take their DJs if I want to. Like if their DJ's doing a killer job and he's bringing a crowd over there, well, the smart thing for that owner or manager to do is to go over and grab their DJs.
Yeah.
And then offer them more money and then say that you can't go play over there.
I mean, this happens on a larger scale as well. A lot of the bigger venues, especially like Atlantic City, if you go play HQ and you're headlining there, there's definitely a clause in the contract that you can't play within a certain number of miles that weekend. Because other venues know, right? They know that if bookers know that an artist is going to be in town for a particular weekend, it's an opportunity to piggyback on other bookings and potentially get that artist at a little bit of a discount, right?
Yeah.
So if I know that a booker is booking James Hype on a Saturday, well, maybe I can get James Hype at my Sunday party for a little less because he's going to be in town and it's a Sunday and he wasn't expecting to play anyway. There's a little bit of negotiating room there. So some of the bigger rooms will say, like, you can't DJ within 24 hours of your gig with us for, in a 90-mile radius or whatever that number might be.
Yeah, when you guys see like an artist playing 2 different parties in like a weekend or a 3-day period, usually those venues that he or she are playing at, they have a relationship in some way.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's not if the hard ticket sales are affected one way or the other, it's not negatively affecting their bottom dollar at the other end.
Right. I mean, the festivals do the same thing. If you play the Insomniac festivals, you can't play the other big festival type thing. Or you can't play a nightclub show the same night that you play the festival type thing because they want people to pay to come see those artists,
Right.
We talked about that a little bit previously for local artists, but it's not as important as the big selling ticket artists,
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, to kind of put a bow on this, I think is just, I think you have to go out and play as many places as you can as an up and coming DJ and really just keep your options open at all times. You don't want to close any doors down. You don't want to burn any bridges. And you want to just accept all offers that are given to you and look at them as all viable options in growing your name and growing your DJ career. Yeah.
And I'll piggyback on that and just say that at the end of the day, you really have to do what's best for you. You can't do what's best for another venue, for another DJ that you're friends with, for another booker, because all of those people are going to be doing what's best for them. So you have to do what's best for you and make the best decision for you. And if that hurts some people's feelings, so be it. You don't want to burn that bridge, but if they respect you and they do business in the right way, they'll understand that you're making a business decision that's best for you.
Right. Having a really good understanding of where you belong is important too. I think we've talked about that a little bit.
Like where you fit in the market?
Where you fit in the market. What room should you be playing? What fits your brand and what fits your needs? And maybe maybe what your passion isn't really what you're playing on the normal. And you're doing like these more passion project events. You have to have a really clear understanding of what you want and where you're trying to go with your DJ career. I know we say this all the time, and it's something that we did years ago. I don't even know if you really remember before Get Dan even was a thing. Like open format was always my thing, right? Since I'm 17 years old, I've done open format. But you and I tried to do a Sunday deep house party like 2 or 3 times. You know what I mean? Because like that's what we wanted to play, and you couldn't go play that anywhere. Like,
where did we do those?
We did one in Morristown at Sona 13 in the basement. And then we did one like in like Hudson County at like a weird spot.
Didn't we do one in like Cliffside Park? Or did that ever actually happen?
It did, but like it was terrible.
It was a flop.
It was a flop big time. It was very hard to do. But like that you can always get creative, right? And try to do things like that to kind of serve scratch those itches, if you will. But yeah, just understanding who you are and what you want to do. That's really important as well when making these decisions and where to go play and where not to go play.
Yeah, and also realize that whatever decision you make in the moment isn't forever, It's not a forever decision. Just because you decide to work at one place doesn't mean that in 6 months you can't go approach the competitor and say, hey, remember we talked about me coming to work over here? I'm ready.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
It might take a little bit. They might put you on pause a little while, right?
Could be.
Not book you right away.
But again, if you have a big enough name, it's not going to matter.
That's true. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, one other thing, this kind of goes along with what we're talking about. I think, as you were saying, knowing what you want to do and adjusting, I think one way to adjust is kind of to go back into your Rolodex or catalog of people that you've worked with in the past and maybe just re-sparking some of those relationships. A lot of times things fizzle out for whatever reason at a place that you used to work at. Maybe it was on their end, maybe it was on your end, maybe it was mutual. But sometimes it makes sense to go back and just touch base with all these relationships that you've built and these places that you used to play at and say, hey, I haven't been here in a while. Maybe we should book something, or can we get something on the books? Or can we throw a get-down party, or whatever the case may be? What are some things that DJs and producers can do to kind of rekindle those past relationships?
Most importantly, like we always say, just stop in the venue and find out whoever that main contact was. Usually if you worked at a place, you establish more than a business relationship. A lot of times you have like this more like of a friendship, and it's just good to maybe go just see that person. I'll even talk about like how this was reverse engineered, where went into a place, saw somebody that I didn't realize I was going to ran into them, and they're like, oh, well, maybe you want to come play here. You know what I mean? And it happened that way. So I think when you're going out and you're trying to maybe book out your month because you have a couple open dates, and you're like, all right, well, who can I hit up? And you dig back in the past and be like, oh, wow, like I hadn't played this place in like 2 years, kind of forgot about it. Just go pop in, have a meal, have a drink, try to be there when like I said, the person that you know is there. And then if that doesn't work, just shoot a text to that decision maker. I think going in and popping in and showing face is the most important thing. That'll get you where you're going fastest.
For sure.
Because just shooting a text or a DM isn't always the greatest way to do it. Which is funny because I just sent a DM to a venue, and that's probably wasn't the best first thing to do. But you don't always have the opportunity to go to the places that you want to work at, right? So you got to start somewhere. So that's always a good start. And then I think the next thing you can do is look to see who's booked at that place. We have a very small community where DJs really know. We all know each other at this point, almost, right? Anybody who's working regularly, we really know each other. So find out, see who's DJing there. I'm sure you're going to know somebody. Go pop in and say hi to them, or ask them how it's going over there. And how's that venue been? What's the format like? Is management still the same? Does this person still bartend there? And just get dialogue going about just the venue in general, and get as much information as possible. And that's another good way to break in, because maybe that place has an opening on Saturday and they're like, oh, well, Gary just reached out to me to say what's up. Like, let's book him on Saturday.
Right.
So those are two pretty good options there.
Information is the most important aspect of this whole thing. It's like, how can you get information about these different places and who's doing the bookings and who's DJing there, and then attacking that venue based on who you know or don't know,
Yeah.
Things change. And sometimes when you haven't worked with someone or talked to them in a long time, if it's someone that's doing well, they're going to be growing just like you're trying to grow. So they might have more venues, more booking opportunities. Maybe the venue that they used to work at has gotten way better and the party's better. And I think that's why it's important to kind of circle back on some of these things. Ideally you get to a point where you don't need to go hit up venues because you've built such a name and you're popular enough that people are coming to you and your calendar's getting filled. But I think even then, it's still important to kind of assess who you know, where they're working, where they're booking, and if any of those rooms are rooms that you'd like to get into. Sometimes, for example, sometimes I just need it to go play a different room and do something different instead of the regular places that I play every month. And it's like, oh, I haven't played here in a while. Let me hit up the booker because I want to get back in there, or I just needed to change up the style music that I'm playing, or whatever the case may be.
I think it's important to note that the people that do well in our industry are a percentage of the time lifers in the industry, where they're going to be doing this for a long time.
The bookers, you mean?
whether they're managers, bar owners, bookers, like if you're
Yeah,
good
the people
at,
who can give you opportunities to DJ.
if you're good at if those people that are good at what they're doing, they're good to work for, usually are in this industry for the long haul. I've learned over the last 22 years, right? And that's why we always say never burn a bridge, because you don't know. When you go back and check in at that place that might not have been very good, maybe the party's growing there, and then they're like, oh, well, we're opening another place down the street that's more nightlife related. And it's like, all right, well, now I just open the door up for 2 new places to work at, right? Or that booker that you worked for, 2-3 years ago, they're still out there grinding, doing their thing, obviously, because they were fun to work for, and that's why you didn't burn a bridge there, but you just kind of moved on, and now you hit them up, and they're like, well, I got these 2 new opportunities happening. People are always growing and expanding on what they're doing, right? The one venue 2 venues that we're working for, they're opening a new place. One of the promoters that we worked for a long time, he opened 2 new places. Like it's always, always, always growing. So, being patient and reflecting on who you've worked for in the past and, keeping those relationships open and healthy are very, very important ways to just continue to grow. And maybe you don't feel like playing like a super high stressful event. You want to play a lower event, and you hit somebody up and be like, oh, I'll pop in and play your, this bar lounge set for a little bit to just kind of like do something different, like you said.
Right.
Like that's why it's just so important to always keep your options open.
Right now is a great time to be doing a lot of this stuff. Like you and I have been doing this for the last few weeks. Honestly, for this whole year, we've been doing this stuff. But especially lately, we're all coming off a slower February because that's the slowest month of the year for us as DJs. It just is what it is. At least up here in the Northeast where it gets cold and snowy and the weather sucks and less people are going out. But it's a great opportunity right now because venues are starting to gear up for the spring. They're all, you hit St. Patty's Day and things start getting warmer and more people start going out and the seasons change. And especially where we live, there's a lot of action here in this spring before the summer hits and everyone's going to the Hamptons or Jersey Shore or the various vacation spots that we always talk about that are in your market. So right now is the time to capitalize on a lot of this. If you're not fully booked out and you want to be, start reaching out to your connections, to your network. See what's going on. See if there's new parties starting. A lot of things that happen with our venue is we'll lose like the Thursday set or the Saturday afternoon set or the Friday happy hour set. And all that stuff will start to come back as we get warmer. So there's just a lot more opportunity. And another thing, there's a lot more private events that start happening once March happens. So all the private event DJs that are now kind of dabbling back into nightlife are going to kind of move out of the way. There'll be less competition for the nightlife only DJs or the majority nightlife DJs. Yeah. So more gigs, less competition. It's just a recipe for more bookings. So just be aware of that and do your due diligence.
Yeah, definitely gear up season up there right before summer hits, and then we'll have a conversation about that as that gets closer. But yeah, any musical stuff you want to get into today? Come on, I'm trying to pull it out of you. I think that's
you want me to. So Gary and I have been having this conversation. We talked about the Skrillex, Fortet, and Fred Again show at the Garden and everything they've been doing a couple episodes ago. I think our title had Skrillex in the title, and we had a ton of commentary on social media around Skrillex versus Fred Again, and who's really the person that's kind of driving that ship, and who's the more popular. And there's been really, really strong opinions on it. And I said to you, like, this weekend, I'm really going to do my due diligence, listen to all their new music, and like really have a educated opinion. And I hate to say it, guys, Skrillex is driving the ship for me. He's driving the ship for me. Maybe it's just my personal music taste. Maybe it's that I'm not out in the scene as much as I once was, but I've been bumping the 2 Skrillex albums all weekend in the car, in the gym. It's just music that is pleasant to listen to. I like it. It's exciting to me. It's different. It's interesting. It's all genres. And to me, it's just better.
I mean, Don't Get Too Close is incredible. I know, like I only gave it a run, first couple tracks on a run when I was out on a run a couple days ago, and then I didn't really dig into the rest of it, and then I just kind of breezed through and got an idea of what the rest of the album's like, and I was like, oh wow, I'd play that song. Oh wow, I'd play that song, and it was like a lot of different tracks that I could fit into a set, whether it be early or late or peak or no matter what it was. I felt like a really good vibe off of it. I honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, didn't even realize that second album dropped a week later because I was so fixated on that on the one that came out first. That first weekend that they played MSG and all that. What's the name of that one?
Quest for Fire.
Quest for Fire. So yeah,
They're
I was
different.
so
They're
very
different
different
albums.
They're very different, and they're both very enjoyable in their own ways. I think it goes back to show you what we talked about in that episode a few episodes ago, where that he is just so versatile and he does so many different things well. I think that's the highlight, is that he can do. A lot of producers can do a lot of different things. How many of them though do it well? That's the question, right? And do it at this level that is just unprecedented. And he just does that, and he features all of these different artists, and he's putting all of these maybe smaller artists that maybe not everybody knows on blast. And he's hopefully going to blow up some careers, which he definitely will. Obviously, just really really enjoyable stuff.
Can you
Fred Again's
think
awesome
of
too, though.
Yeah,
Fred Again's great too.
I'm not taking away from what Fred Again has done in the last year or two. Like Boiler Room set was awesome. I listened to the Boiler Room set because I hadn't really listened to the whole thing. I'm like, I have to do my due diligence here, right? Really enjoyable. Just not as much of my style of music that I like personally. And guys, music is a taste thing, right? It's like, just because I like something or don't like something doesn't mean that you can't, or you shouldn't. I don't know. Like the Fred Again thing, maybe I have to go see him live to really understand the greatness of Fred Again.
I would go see. You know what's funny? I think if you asked me who would I go see live, like one or the other, I think I'd pick Fred Again. But I think that's because of my style of what I like to listen to. Like I listen to a softer style of house music, I guess is the best way to describe it. I don't know how else to describe it. I think, but if I was to choose, I like melodic. I like melodic house, even if it's like a banger, I'm trying to think of even if it's like a hard style. I still like there to be some kind of melodic break that's like softer.
Yeah,
no matter what genre of house I'm listening to. That's why I was such a big fan of trance, like back in the classic trance. It was, always very, very melodic. So that I think that's why I'll lean towards Freddie on a live set. I
think also the live performance aspect of what he brings to the table, we've talked about, is also like something new and interesting and really creative and fun, and just shows off his real musical ability, right? And his production skills. And guys, it's not easy to do what he does in a live setting. It's really, really, really hard. That's why not a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
So, listen, I'm not taking away from Fred Again. I just think that a lot of people were kind of shooting back at me on what I said about Skrillex in the last episode, and I think that's okay. Everyone, these are two great, amazing, top of the world artists right now, and you can like both of them. We're doing this just for argument's sake here, right. But let me ask you this: do you remember an artist who's put out 2 albums in back-to-back weeks, like ever? I obviously we've seen the double album thing, but
it did happen, and I can't. It was a big drop too, and I'm not. We obviously didn't look this up. Somebody did it. Somebody did it in a big way too, and I cannot remember who it was.
Let's see if I could look it up real quick.
In back-to-back weeks, somebody's probably screaming at their radio, at their speakers right now, being like, "You idiots! You're not thinking of."
Oh, Future did it.
Okay.
Debuted 2 #1 albums.
Yeah, I felt like it was definitely somebody that was like pop, mainstream, hip hop, in that realm. There's no
All right,
classic
well,
rock
we're not gonna
bands.
kill you guys as we do our little.
Don't classic rock bands did it?
I don't know.
There's been plenty of bands that have done it, like 2 albums in a year, right? I think like 50 to two albums in a year. I know Grateful Dead did it back in the 70s. And like both albums be smash hits, right? Maybe I think that's what I'm thinking of more or less. It's the 2 in a year, not back-to-back weeks. You're kind of cannibalizing. Back in the day, you'd be cannibalizing the album sales on that first drop. That's why with the current state of music consumption, you can do this. You can get away with it more. Where in the age of album sales, hard album sales, this would never be done. And that's why you'd spread them out instead of doing them back-to-back weeks like that or doing a double album. Well, you'd either do the double album or you'd spread them out in 2 different parts of the year. I think it was Kanye. Not Kanye. What did I say? It was 50 that did it, I think, back.
Yeah, I mean, 28 songs on the 2 albums.
Oh, no. DMX. That's who it was. DMX did two big. His 2 biggest albums were in the same year, crazily enough.
Yeah, same year, but not week after week. The only person I'm finding here is Future.
Yeah, you wouldn't do it then.
Future album and then Hendrix were the 2 albums he put out back-to-back weeks. Yeah, I think it's just an interesting marketing tactic to me. You know, it's not something we see often. So I've been thinking about it. And I was just.
Is it because it's so stylistically different? You wouldn't put it out as a double, or you think it's just too many tracks to have like on one? Like think about opening Spotify and having Skrillex have 30 songs on an album. Like he could break them up stylistically. And it's still going to have the same effect because they're just plays, you know. You're just going to go, but you can. It flows completely different, especially when you're consuming it in a whole album format.
Yeah, I'd like to say that this was a decision that was like, hey, we're going to ride the momentum and put out back-to-back albums, but these decisions get made so far in advance that I would guess that he was probably in the studio and making music and just made so much music that they were like, let's just put out 2 albums. And because the music was very stylistically different, I think it makes more sense.
Yeah, totally.
And just also in reading kind of just some commentary on the Skrillex albums, I think some of the criticism has just been that like the albums are kind of scatterbrained and all over and there's not like a full flow to them. But isn't that why you like Skrillex? Like, isn't that what Skrillex is, you know? Like, that's Skrillex's whole style is you never really know the genre or he just genre bends so much. And I think that's what makes him so great. And anyone that's criticizing for that doesn't truly understand what Skrillex really is, I think.
Yeah, he's not trying to pigeonhole himself into one genre, and that's perfectly fine. And it's way more enjoyable for me, the listener, for sure.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it from a DJ perspective, you can have a completely different conversation around that, but I think this conversation is more driven toward listening to the album, enjoying the album for what it is.
For sure. All right, I think that's a good place to wrap. Anything we need to promo over the next couple weeks? Well, actually, you know what? One thing, guys, we are getting a ton of listens on the podcast, but we also are doing this video on YouTube, and we want to bump our YouTube numbers up. So go check out our YouTube, Get Down DJ group. Check out the Get Down podcast. You could watch these podcasts rather than listen, and you really get all my hand gestures and facial expressions. And I think it's a unique way to take in the pod. So if you haven't checked out the YouTube, definitely go check that out. We'll have the link in the show notes. And it's obviously
comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you know when a new episode is uploaded. You'll get an alert. And yeah, it's like I say, it's my favorite way to watch the to listen to the podcast.
I think second thing, we've been working on redoing our website, and we're going to relaunch our website, and it's really going to be like a one-stop shop for everything we do. So all the podcasts, whether it's music or the Get Down University, merch, you could go check out all our artists. If you want to, get in contact with us, it'll be a place to do that. So we're really excited about the way that the website's coming out. You guys will see us promote it here in the next week or so. But super excited to launch that. Shout to the 86 who've been helping us out. Our boy Jay and Evan.
did a hell of a job. It looks great. Really proud of it. Really, really proud product to put out for you guys. And hopefully you guys can just check in with us there and figure out what's going on with Get Down, right? And all in one space.
For sure.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Get Down. My name's Kareem.
Gary W.
Peace out.
We out. Peace.